First Lady Jill Biden today making a surprise visit to Ukraine on this Mother's Day. She has crossed the border from Slovakia, where she had been on an official visit, part of her 4-day trip to Eastern Europe. There was this emotional moment today when she met with Ukraine's First Lady, Olena Zelensky, who has not made a public appearance since the start of the war in February. You see right there, exchange of flowers. Arlette Saenz is at the White House, and CNN's Kate Bennett is traveling with the First Lady and joins us from Slovakia. So, Kate, let me go to you. What do we need to know about this visit?
Well, we're back in Slovakia tonight, but earlier today we made that surprise trip with the First Lady into Uzhhorod, Ukraine, which is in the southwestern corner of the country, about 15-minute drive from the Slovakian border. And the biggest surprise of all, besides this trip on Mother's Day, was, as you said, the appearance of First Lady Olena Zelenska, who came out of hiding to meet with the First Lady. The two women have exchanged correspondence over the last several months, and meeting today was a big deal. Not only is this a First Lady going into an active war zone, a United States First Lady going into an active war zone, but this is also the wife of a president of Ukraine who has tried to keep undercover. The public has not seen her. So the two women together, especially on Mother's Day, as Dr. Biden said, it was important to correspond and to meet with her on Mother's Day to express support from America for Ukraine. Now, the two women held a bilateral behind closed doors for about a half an hour or so that the press didn't get to see, but I'm told they talked about especially mental health. The First Lady of Ukraine is particularly concerned about the citizens of her country, the children, the families, the soldiers who are involved in this bloody invasion by Russia of their homeland. She wonders what will happen to them mentally, emotionally after this war does end. Of course, Dr. Biden, a big proponent of mental health, of children, education. So this was something the two women conversed about for quite some time. It was emotional. There were kids. This is a former school that has been turned into temporary housing for families that have been displaced by the war. So imagine your local high school all of a sudden becomes sort of a small apartment for people who no longer have homes. The two First Ladies did an arts and crafts project. They were very close. You could tell there was a connection there. Dr. Biden's entire trip has been about women, mothers, and children. This was the culmination. Tomorrow she wraps it up here in Bratislava, Slovakia, and heads back to Washington. Back to you.
Right, a surprise visit to the rest of the world, but clearly a welcome visit there to the First Lady of Ukraine. Arlette, to you now at the White House. President Biden, meantime, held a virtual meeting with G7 leaders over the crisis in Ukraine. So what more can you tell us about that meeting?
Well, the purpose of this meeting, Fred, was really twofold. President Biden and G7 leaders expressing their support and solidarity with Ukraine, but also discussing their commitment to further punishing Russia through sanctions. If you take a look at this photo of the meeting, the president held the call from his home in Wilmington, Delaware. It lasted a little over an hour. If you look really closely there, Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau was actually in the room in Ukraine with Ukrainian President Zelensky as the leaders all held this phone call. The U.S. and allies said that they would further provide military and economic assistance to Ukraine. In a statement released after the call, they said that there would be more financial aid going to the country in the coming weeks. But they also talked about the need to ramp up those sanctions against Russia. The U.S. today rolling out a new package of sanctions that in part targets 3 Russian state-run TV stations. It bans U.S. advertising on those stations. Additionally, it's prohibiting the U.S. Provided management and consulting services to companies, as well as imposing export controls on the industrial sector and ramping up visa restrictions on more than 2,500 Russians and Belarusians. Now, also in the G7 statement that was released after the call, the U.S. and allied countries committed to phasing out Russian gas and energy. Of course, the U.S. has already banned Russian energy imports, but that is noteworthy as the European countries are much more reliant on Russian oil and energy compared to the United States. Additionally, today, the acting U.S. ambassador to Ukraine and other officials traveled to Kyiv after they had left the embassy there back in mid-February. Just another sign of support with Ukraine, especially as Russia is expected to celebrate Victory Day tomorrow. The U.S. and its allies trying to reinforce to Ukraine and show their unwavering support for the country amid this war.
All right, Arlette Saenz and Kate Bennett, thanks to both of you. Appreciate it. So the First Lady's visit happening amid horrific new violence brought on by Russia's onslaught. Ukrainian officials say at least 60 people are feared dead after a Russian airstrike hit a school in the Luhansk region. That school had been acting as a shelter for nearly 100 people. This latest heinous attack on civilians comes on Ukraine's Day of Remembrance and Reconciliation, held in honor of those who lost their lives during World War II. President Volodymyr Zelensky offering these sobering remarks on this sacred day.
This year, we say never again differently. We hear never again differently. It sounds painful, cruel, without an exclamation, but with a question mark. You say never again? Tell Ukraine about it.
CNN's Scott McLean is in Lviv covering this latest round of events there. So, Scott, what more are you learning about the attack at that school?
Hey, Frederica. Yeah, so those 90 people, according to a local military official, were sheltering inside that school because most of the rest of the village had been bombed out, and it was one of the last remaining good places to actually shelter there. And our colleagues actually managed to get to that area to speak with some of the survivors from this village of Bilohorivka. And what they're saying is absolutely incredible. One man said that it was just all at once, like flicking a light switch. The lights went out, all three of the floors collapsed on top of them, and they just simply could not understand what was going on. Another man said that he was one of the first ones out of that building. He was sort of chucking bricks to the side to try to get out with the help of some other villagers who had run over quickly to try to help with getting people out from under there. He also said that among the people who were sheltering there, elderly people and children. And one other man whose head was visibly bandaged, visibly injured, said that a slab of concrete had come down on him in addition to some other rocks. And when he got out of that, from under that school, he said he felt like a drunk man, just completely lost. So at last word, there were 27 people who managed to survive, but it's very likely, according to local officials, that 60 people did not get out because even though search and rescue is ongoing, just given the state of things, they say that it is extremely unlikely that there is anyone still alive underneath all that rubble. And just a little bit of context here, Frederica, this village, Bilohorivka, is about 7 miles or so west of the front lines. It's taken some heavy shelling in recent weeks as the Russians try to push through that front line, break through the Ukrainian front lines. There was an evacuation about 2 weeks ago that successfully managed to get roughly 50 people out, including some children, but clearly not everyone took the opportunity or could take the opportunity to get out then.
So sad. All right, Scott McLean, thank you so much. Let's talk more about all of this. Let's bring in Kim Dozier. She's a CNN Global Affairs analyst and correspondent for Time. So, Kim, as we just heard, Ukraine continues to accuse Russia of not keeping its word on evacuations, and it's not just an accusation. I mean, there's the evidence, right? I mean, does anyone believe that Russia is going to respect any other calls for evacuation when continued examples of atrocities like this continue to happen? Russia targets places where there are civilians, not by mistake, it seems, but knowingly, intentionally.
Well, Fred, it seems that in their frustration that they're not going to be able to deliver any big victory in terms of a territorial area seized in eastern Ukraine to Vladimir Putin in time for Victory Day, they seem to be doubling down on this practice that we have seen from the beginning of this conflict of hitting anywhere that might hurt the Ukrainians and hopefully, in Russia's eyes, make them withdraw. Heedless, and some Ukrainian officials say intentionally hitting civilian targets. Now, that is going to be a difficult one to prove. It's going to be something that we see playing out years from now, likely in war crimes trials. But it is devastating and painful to watch. And it's one of the reasons why when the International Red Cross and other organizations are able to organize a route out of some of these embattled areas, the people just don't trust Russia enough to leave.